What is going on, my brothers and sisters in Christ? Today we have our Bible study time. Hang on, I gotta get somewhere quiet. Dude, another exotic engram. This, for reference, is how many exotic engrams I have. I do not need nearly so many. Anyway. Welcome, thank you for tuning in. Today we are continuing through with reading Genesis. We're going through Genesis chapters 1 through 11. We are on Genesis chapter 4 this week. Just need to get somewhere quiet here for a second. Leap up here. Nope, not that one. Wait. There we go. Alright, as always, before we start discussing things, I'm going to pray. Father God, thank you for today. Thank you for your mercies, which are new every morning. I ask that you bless this Bible study today with your mercy, Lord. That through the reading of your word and through, I pray, the thoughts that I have about your word, people could learn about you. That people would learn from you, and that you will draw people closer to you. In the name of your holy Son, Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen. Alright, so today might be kind of a shorter stream, or a shorter video if you're watching on YouTube. We got Genesis chapter 4. Flip with me to that if you will, as I struggle to find it. It's right in between Genesis chapters 3 and 5 if you're having trouble. Okay, Genesis chapter 4. We are going to just jump right into it. Actually, hang on. We're going to give just the slightest bit of background. Genesis chapter 3. Adam, Eve, in a garden. Everything's going great. Snake comes, talks to them, convinces them to do the bad thing. They do the bad thing, and bad things happen. God kicks them out of the Garden of Eden. He makes some clothes too. That was pretty nice. Curses all around. There we go. Now we're caught up. Genesis chapter 4. Now Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord. And again she bore his brother Abel. Now Abel was a keeper of sheep, and Cain a worker of the ground. In the course of time, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of fruits of the ground. And Abel also brought of the firstborn of his flock and of their fat portions. And the Lord had regard for Abel and his offering, but for Cain and his offering he had no regard. So Cain was very angry, and his face fell. The Lord said to Cain, Why are you angry, and why has your face fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is for you, but you must rule over it. Cain spoke to Abel, his brother. And when they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, Where is Abel, your brother? He said, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? The Lord said, What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground. And now you are cursed from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it shall no longer yield to you its strength. You shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth. Cain said to the Lord, My punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, you have driven me today away from the ground, and from your face I shall be hidden. I shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. Then the Lord said to him, Not so. If anyone kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord put a mark on Cain, lest any who found him should attack him. Then Cain went away from the presence of the Lord, and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. When he built a city, he called the name of the city after the name of his son, Enoch. To Enoch was born Arad, and Arad fathered Mehujael, and Mehujael fathered Methushael, and Methushael fathered Lamech. And Lamech took 2 wives. The name of the one was Ada, and the name of the other Zillah. Ada bore Jabal. He was the father of those who dwell in tents and have livestock. His brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all those who play the lyre and pipe. Zillah also bore Tubal-Cain. He was the forger of all instruments of bronze and iron. The sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. Lamech said to his wives, Ada and Zillah, hear my voice. You wives of Lamech, listen to what I say. I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for striking me. If Cain's revenge is 7-fold, then Lamech's is 77-fold. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son, and called his name Seth. For she said, God has appointed for me another offspring instead of Abel, for Cain killed him. To Seth also a son was born, and he called his name Enosh. At that time, people began to call upon the name of the Lord. Alright, so we've got some good stuff here. Or perhaps bad stuff here. We see here what happens after Adam and Eve get kicked out of Eden. They start living their lives, they have a couple sons, and the sons are living much the same as their parents did, right? Cain is working the ground with Adam, as he was earlier made to do, and then cursed to do, I guess. Wow, I'm bad. There we go. So, Cain and Abel. Cain's working the ground, Abel's working the animals. He works with livestock and sheep. I'm not really sure what kind of animals. It probably said, but I've already forgotten. And in time, Cain and Abel both bring an offering to God. Cain offered some of the fruits from his work. Some of the things that he has made. And Abel also, but Abel's offering is different than Cain's somehow. We're told it is the finest that he has. It is the first fruits of... Hang on, let me find the actual words, that I'm not lying and speaking heresies. I hate speaking heresies, it's no fun. Cain brought the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground, and Abel also brought of the firstborn of his flock and of their fat portions. So we get 2 different offerings to God, and for whatever reason that is not quite made clear to us, God looks favorably upon Abel and his offerings, but doesn't look favorably upon Cain and his offering. Cain gets upset. He gets jealous of Cain. He gets jealous of Abel. He is Cain. He gets jealous of Abel and the regard that God had for his offering. We see here God step into the situation, right? And he goes and he talks to Cain for a moment, has a little bit of a heart-to-heart. He says, why are you so upset? Don't you know that when you do good things, like Abel has done, you'll be blessed? Or, again, what perhaps are the actual words? I hear a very angry dreg or something. Ooh. If you do well, will you not be accepted? That's what he said. So we get here an idea perhaps Abel's offering wasn't the best he had, wasn't perhaps offered with a heart of offering, but perhaps out of some form of obligation, which doesn't make sense from our perspective here. There was no law at this time to give offerings to God, so all the offerings should have been done without any feelings of obligation. But regardless, if you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door, and its desire is for you. but you must rule over it. So we get here a picture that God understands what's going on. He sees Cain's anger. Sorry, I had to focus for a second, and I still missed. He sees Cain in his anger, and he meets him there, and he offers him advice. He says, it's okay, this was fine, but you can do better next time. We always have the opportunity to do better next time when we fail once. And that second bit, sin is waiting for you. Its desire is for you, but you must rule over it. We see in the next verse what God was talking about. Cain kills his brother Abel. This is the first murder, perhaps, in the world. I had deja vu when I came here from the solo ops this week. God's suggestion here to Cain is don't do the bad thing. We've done the bad thing before. Your parents did it. You can ask them how it goes. Do not do the bad thing. And Cain does the bad thing. God comes up to Cain. He asks him a question. Where's Abel? Where's your brother? It's interesting to me that God likes to ask these kinds of questions. Perhaps it's a form of grace, I don't know. But the same thing happened when Adam and Eve had just eaten the fruits that they weren't supposed to. They were hiding in the garden. Called, where are you? What's going on? And then they have to come out and say, hey, we were hiding. We were afraid because we were naked. And God asked, who told you were naked? This is interesting because we learn from the Bible that God knows everything. He knows. He knows where they were. He knows where Abel is. He knows who told them that they were naked. It was the fruit. God knows, but he asks for some reason. He likes asking. He likes asking questions and drawing us into a conversation. I think it is in conversation with God that we come to know him. I studied psychology for a little bit, for a couple years, 4 of them even. One of the things that I learned that we talked about in one of my classes was how do you build intimacy? How do you develop intimacy in a relationship? And what we said, or what psychology says, is you do it through self-disclosure. If you want to build intimacy in your relationship with someone, your brother, your sister, your mother, your father, your boyfriend or girlfriend or spouse, this is how you do it. You tell them things about you. And it is through conversation with God that we get the opportunity to tell God things about us. Understand, he knows these things, but there is an intimacy that is built through a connection, through a conversation with God. And I think that's probably why he asks sometimes. Anywho, Cain denies everything. I don't know where my brother is. Am I supposed to keep track of him? God says, what have you done? I hear the blood of your brother calling to me from the ground. I feel like I've heard in a translation before, it is testifying against you. Or maybe that's just somewhere else in the Bible where it talks about this story. So God punishes Cain. The blood is calling to you from the ground. Cursed is the ground because of you. When you work the ground, it shall no longer yield to you its strength. You shall be a fugitive and wanderer from the earth. He sends him out. Cain, at this moment, starts to understand the gravity of his mistake. He says, my punishment is greater than I can bear. You have driven me today from the ground, and from your face I'll be hidden. I'll be a fugitive on the earth, and anyone who finds me will have right to kill me. God says, no. We aren't going to repay violence for violence. If anyone harms a hair on your head, the vengeance of the Lord will be taken on him sevenfold. And then the Lord puts a mark on Cain, so that everyone would know, do not harm this man, my son. Cain gets driven away. We have a bit of his genealogy, a bit of the story of his children, and what happens to him. Not a lot. The last thing of interest to me that I'm going to pull out is Lamech, Cain's descendant. Lamech's the guy who has 2 wives, and he had that little poem, and I think that little poem is very interesting. He said, calls out to his wives, Ada and Zillah, hear my voice. You wives of Lamech, listen to what I say. I have killed a man today for wounding me, a young man for striking me. If Cain's revenge is sevenfold, then Lamech's revenge is 77-fold. So Lamech here calls back to that promise of protection that God gave to Cain. Lamech's great-great-great-grandfather or something. And Lamech twists that. He twists that to his own desire. When I read this through the first time in my Bible, I made a little note, and I have that note here. 5 generations. It took 5 generations of the earth for someone to take the words that God had spoken and to twist them, to pervert them, and to make it suit themselves. It's 5 generations from Cain to Lamech, and that was all it took. I had one more thought I wanted to share. I just have to find it. Where are we at? Somewhere in James, I know. Okay. Here from James, I'll read James 13 through 15. Let no one say when he is tempted, I am being tempted by God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, and he himself tempts no one. But each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. Then desire, when it has conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death. In the last couple chapters, we have seen that play out through Genesis. Adam and Eve had a desire for the fruit, to be made like God, to know good and evil. That desire, they were being tempted by that desire. That desire produced sin. And here, with Cain and Abel, that sin produces death. This is how sin works in life. And I think that that God's warning to Cain is something that we can take hope in. And then James here, the book of James is great. Go read it if you haven't. It's like 5 chapters long. It's not big. You can knock it out in just like an hour. But James spends a lot of time comforting people about temptations and dealing with trials, persevering through trials and temptations. God warned Cain about sin, that it was waiting for him, that it wants him, and that he has to be the ruler over it. I read a commentary on that the other day. I don't remember. It was from a guy called Dennis Prager. He looked at the different translations of that. You must rule over your sin is the one that I have here in ESV. Some other translations say you may rule over it. basically, he came with the idea that we have here an example of free will. God knew exactly what Cain was thinking. He knew what was going on, and he warned him. And the warning was, do not commit this sin. In that warning is the implication that I cannot hit a sniper shot. In that warning is the implication that it was possible. It was possible for Cain to avoid the temptation and to not fall into that sin. It is possible for all of us too. So read James. Listen to him when he talks about persevering through temptations and trials. Take heart from that. You can persevere through your temptations. Let no one say when he is tempted, he is being tempted by God. God doesn't tempt anyone. But each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. Then desire, when it has conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death. There you have it. Next week, we're going to go on to Genesis chapter 5. Thank you for watching. If you're on YouTube and you like what you see, hit the like. That helps out a lot. If you have any comments, comment them. I will see them all. If you want to see more of this, hit the subscribe. But thank you very much for watching. Have a blessed day.